Head over to thebestsongever.com and purchase our new hit, Together Again. It is a cover of Smokey Mike and the God King. That's Jeremy Boring and Michael Knowles. And with your help, we will smash our way onto the Billboard charts. One thing I did want to ask you about was your position on one of the big culture war issues in this country is in Florida, they announced that they would be barring certain books from curriculum that contained adult materials. This resulted in big headlines like this about, this is not the one. Orlando newspaper publishes spread of 673 books banned in Florida County in 2023. I was curious if you knew a lot about what was going on nationwide with the removal of certain books from school curriculum and what your thoughts were.
I'm very much against book banning. I think book banning is basically fascist behavior. Some of the books that are being banned, there'll be a suggestion of homosexual feelings, so they call it they call it pornographic and something children shouldn't read. I trust teachers and librarians, and I don't like the idea of the U.S. government or a state government telling librarians or teachers what they can teach.
You don't think we should have laws on any, like what about a Playboy? Like if a Playboy was in a grade school, would that be an issue?
A Playboy magazine?
Yeah.
Yeah, as a parent, I'd have a big problem with a Playboy magazine.
What if there was a book being given to middle schoolers that depicted giving blowjobs?
I would. Yeah. Well, okay. Once again, I wouldn't want my child to read that, and I definitely would be wanting to work on.
This is the book.
Okay, that's school board. That's not government, not the U.S. government, or I don't want the U.S. government and I don't want the state governor telling me the books cannot be taught. If I were a parent, and I am a parent, if my child in the 8th grade, I would definitely be going to the school. I would definitely be working with the school board, and I definitely would have a problem with that.
What if the school board, if it doesn't do anything about it, then do you have to appeal to the state?
I don't want a governor telling colleges what classes they can teach.
This isn't colleges. This is
and even the 8th grade
school.
Yeah, no, I don't think the governor should be telling schools what they can teach in the 8th grade. I would have a problem with that, but that's school board. And then you elect people to your school board.
If you had a child between the ages of 10 and 12, and the teacher was providing them instruction on how to use anonymous gay sex apps, would you call the police on that teacher?
I would definitely go to the principal right away. Police, I have a problem with bringing the police into that. Going to the principal, you better believe I would. And I would show up at the school board as well.
So the reason why I bring up these are very specific examples. This book is gay. We have this story from ABC. Parents call cops after teacher offers this book is gay to middle schoolers in Illinois. This book provides instruction on for the use of gay dating apps for anonymous sex. And these are middle schoolers. These are 10, 11, and 12-year-olds. Mm-hmm. So the parents finding out that the teacher was doing this, I mean, that's pedophilia. That's grooming behavior. That is outright egregious and illegal. When I don't even want to say conservatives, but it seems to be the case when, let's say someone like me, I'm from Chicago, and I grew up with a Democrat family. When I find out that adults are providing children this kind of stuff, I say that's a bad thing. We shouldn't allow that. However, for some reason, I end up with, we had the woman, what was her name from the Majority Report?
Emma Vigeland.
Emma Vigeland came on and actually defended that these books be kept in middle schools.
No, I would not agree with Emma Vigeland.
Yeah, I think she hadn't read the books either when she made that statement. I could be wrong.
So this is the culture war issue. And the reason why I bring it up is I often find that people who would align themselves as more Democrat or left-leaning are not familiar with the books in question that are being challenged by parents. And so you end up with these stories that are not correct. They'll say something like, To Kill a Mockingbird. And it's like, I'm not concerned at all about ideas and philosophy. I think critical race theory as a philosophy, it can be taught in schools, but as praxis, I don't think that's appropriate. So the criticism became with Florida, it's not that they had books on critical race theory, it's that they had critical race praxis in books. But
what are you calling critical race practice?
Praxis. So, for instance, there's what was one example? We had, I forgot the woman's name. Was it Asra Nomani?
Yeah.
That was her name? Mm-hmm. A lot of the books that they were bringing into Florida would say something like, we have the classic math problem where it says a train leaves Cincinnati, traveling 50 miles an hour, and a train departs Pittsburgh traveling or whatever. And, at what point do they pass? But now what the books are doing, it'll say, Evan is white and has been detained by police 2 times in the past year. Jamal is black and has been detained 17 times. What percentage of the times have police been racist? And these are the kinds of questions that are being put in books. So this is called praxis, where the idea of the ideology is embedded in a separate subject. Parents were upset saying, hey, this is ideological and not relevant to the subject of science or math. We don't want this as part of the curriculum.
That's what you're saying.
And so then what ended up happening is they say, okay, well, we're going to remove this from curriculum. But then, of course, the media reports it as Republicans banned books.
But but see, even the way we're contextualizing the conversation, I don't think is very helpful. I don't think it's a left-right issue. For instance, if you are a parent and you don't want your child in the 7th grade reading a book about blowjobs, I mean, to me, that's not a left-right issue, that the child is learning about that in school. But to me, as an American, not as a left-winger, but as an American, I do want my child to learn, for instance, about unequal application of criminal justice when it comes to race. So, if a black person is given a sentence in a courtroom in the United States, that black person is liable to have a 20% longer sentence. What I didn't like about what you said was it was a specific projection onto the police, when not every policeman is racist.
That's praxis.
However, the idea, though, that the white person is stopped so much less than the black person, I don't have a problem with kids learning that in high school.
But shouldn't topics like that be their own subject as opposed to mixed into other topics? Because what ends up happening is if you're teaching kids math and you're adding additional subcontext, then you end up with people that aren't learning the subject they're supposed to be learning, and that's part of why our schools have such a problem with making test scores, and we have kids that are graduating without that can't read at grade level. Some can't read functionally, can't read at all, and a lot of it is because of these kind of this means of teaching. For the type of teaching and the framework they use, it's part of the reason. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. There's parents aren't making sure their kids are getting to school and stuff. Parents aren't taking care of their parental duties. There's a lot of things.
Opioids.
Kids dropping out and stuff like that. Absolutely. There's a lot of reasons. But you do see the more whatever institution, whatever you're dealing with, whether it be an institution or whether it be corporations with their HR departments focusing on like DEI and stuff like that. When you have those type of departments and that kind of focus, you are taking away some of at least a portion of the resources that are supposed to go to actually teaching, and you're putting them to things that don't teach them or hinder them teaching. Because if that were its own class in, like, whether it be social studies or whatever, in civics or whatever, if the type of awareness or social justice was its own class, that's one thing. But if you're mixing it in with other things, then you're going to have it watered. Wow. Have a problem with
this. Sorry,
I think you're making some points that are understandable. However, what those of us on the left are arguing, that children should learn, for instance, our racial history in this country.
Well, no one's arguing against that.
Yes, many people are arguing against that. I'm sorry, many people are arguing against that. And there's this hysteria about critical race theory, and they think just teaching people about the history of slavery in the United States.
But that's not true.
That's not critical race theory.
That's not critical race theory.
Do you know that there are schools? I remember I was in South Carolina, and there's a law that if any child goes to the teacher and says, that made me uncomfortable, that then the teacher cannot teach that book.
Yeah, and that came from the left because of people that, like, from microaggressions and stuff like that. If you feel uncomfortable in a class, it was the left-leaning people that wanted. I
kind of agree with that, actually.
Yeah, the left-leaning people were like, oh, wait,
the point is, a child, all that has to happen in that case is that the parents tell the child, Tell the teacher this makes you uncomfortable. Once a child gets into high school, you start reading books about things that, I mean, part of literature, part of art, part of movies. There's some things that are going to make you uncomfortable. And if you're reading the history of the United States, some things
let me ask, do you agree with critical race theory?
Critical race theory was just something that it's so misunderstood. It was something that had to do with a legal theory that people were talking about in, like, law school. But there are things that have to do with
are you not familiar with the ideology of critical race theory?
It has to do with the idea that many things are seen through and filtered through the lens of race. But many things that parents have been lining up to complain about in school boards around the country just were anything that had to do with race and calling it in this almost hysteria about critical race theory. I think there's a big difference between critical race theory and teaching children the truth about the history of the United States, which I believe, regardless of our politics, is a requirement for conscious citizenship.
So outside of perhaps there are a lot of ignorant people who they're complaining for a variety of reasons. I won't speak to them. I'm sure they exist. The political stances taken by many people that were fighting books on critical race theory was what's called critical race praxis. And that is to take the ideology from Kimberly Crenshaw and Derek Bell and apply it into schools through science and math and other subjects unrelated to, say, social studies. So you'd end up with a lot of political commentators saying things like, my position, for instance, take the literal book, Critical Race Theory, and bring it to any school you want and let children read it and even give them a lesson on it. But critical race praxis was when they did like a math problem.
Like you were just talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
So the issue I take with critical race theory is that it is an abhorrent racist ideology that advocates for segregation. And the critical race praxis was to take that ideology and apply it and teach children. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.